Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973.
10 minutes for ages the time, all thirsting for news out of Kabul. No one better to turn to than Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, who joins me now. And given the chillingly accurate intelligence that one of your colleagues from your department shared with us yesterday concerning the likelihood of attacks around Kabul airport, what is the latest intelligence telling us? Good morning, Secretary of State.
Good morning, Nick. So first of all, the latest on the actual incident was there were 13 US Marines killed overnight, during the explosion. One tragically died overnight and a further 20 injured, and 60 to 80 Afghans estimated to have also been killed, which would have included families. They were about 300 metres from the Barons Hotel that you've heard us talk about, the processing centre, and it was, we think, one suicide vest and a smaller device detonated. A callous, cowardly and pointless attack on people just trying to leave the country, and on forces who were doing their very, very best to just protect those people and get out of the country. And, you know, they were US Marines and they are our closest friends and allies, and our thoughts with them. It could have also been our soldiers on that. And it's always chilling when you see intelligence that it indicates an attack is imminent and there's only so much you can do. And I know that those Marines were trying in the last moments to tackle effectively the suicide bomber.
What is the latest intelligence, Secretary of State?
Well, I think I can't share too much on it. What I can say is that ISIS have declared, obviously, their intent to continue to try and attack us. The overall narrative was always going to be that some terrorist groups would want to claim credit for driving the infidels, or whatever they wanted to call us, out. We predicted that. We built that into the system. But of course, when you're dealing with people who simply don't have any regard for any type of target or person, that is a bigger challenge. They would have used the crowds to come in through, and the security situation is definitely very severe. But we have now, at 4:30 this morning, I gave the authority to close the Barons Hotel and the processing centre and move them out. So our troops are now behind the wall, and we will continue to process 1,000 more people, Nick, and start the next stage.
How many people are we leaving behind, Secretary of State?
Well, we've... if I can give you in the good and the bad, in the good, we've moved 15,680 people since April.
That must be the biggest airlift since Berlin.
I think it's humanitarian-wise of people. It is, I think, the biggest for 70 years.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Back to the figures.
Extraordinary achievement. No, it's extraordinary. It's a generational achievement. I'm tempted to not use the word achievement because I don't want to make this some sort of great glory. It isn't, but it is an achievement, nevertheless, by our RAF and our forces. We took out 13,700 since August the 14th, so that's nearly 1,000 people a day. The Arab people you'll hear us call, those are the people who the MOD has helped, supported. Those are the people that helped us for 20 years, put their lives at risk, and their families. We've taken out 8,000 of those people in the last 14 days, and about 4,000 British nationals and 1,500 people from other countries, as we do in our sort of solidarity with the international movement, the community. Look, it's an amazing achievement. We only went there to do that. People put themselves at risk. Tragically, those US Marines lost their lives doing it. But it is an extraordinary, and we are on our way out. The next stage will be our military leave. We have 1,000 people and their equipment, and we will be gone within a certain period before the 31st of August.
Hours, then?
Potentially hours. A few days maybe, but definitely hours. I don't want to speculate on the exact the UK military withdrawal, because that would, of course, make us operationally vulnerable, and we saw reports. Now, I don't know whether they're confirmed or not at all of someone shooting at an Italian plane yesterday, so I think we just keep that OPSEC tight. But nevertheless, if I could just say, I've been on your show a few times the last few weeks, the men and women of people like 16 Air Assault Brigade, 3 para, 2 para, the Yorks and 3 Scots, an amazing job, just an amazing job alongside the RAF. No one has caused any problems. There's no bureaucracy, just an extraordinary tribute to our people. I authorised a few days ago that we loosened the regulations on our aircraft to put even more people on. As you know, Health and Safety Brigade is never an easy group of people to get. Not a question, it was done. People have moved out. We have taken some decisions that no doubt will play out in a few days. In order to get more Afghans out and more British nationals, we squeezed the timetable for taking our military out, which might mean we have to leave equipment behind. And no doubt we'll see in the media, how could you leave a Land Rover behind or something? And all I ask your listeners to remember is that Land Rover probably represented 30, 40 people that we took on a plane instead. And that's the decision I made as Defence Secretary, but it's the right thing to do.
Just referring to one of my earlier questions, do you have an idea of how many we've left behind?
Yeah, I think approximately, if you remember, the British nationals, the passport holders, I've said before, that the overall bucket of how many of those people were was pretty unknown because a lot of them had already gone to Pakistan or UAE or had come home. But we think we're down to approximately 100 to 150 British nationals left in the estimated pot. Some of those were willingly staying. Some of them are, for example, some journalists who might have wanted to stay. They might be just people who have dual national passports who have no intention of leaving, aid, etc. But that is a very, very provisional figure simply because, Nick, we didn't really know the overall number to begin with. Then on the ARAP scheme, those are all those people. We've actually doubled the number of people we thought we would get out, and we are now way above the original, even the estimates of the total ARAP, which is nearly hitting 10,000. It will go over 10,000, we think, today from April. But we think there will be circa between 800 and 1,100 ARAP who didn't make it through.
What's your biggest frustration or regret over this operation?
Well, I think the biggest frustration was simply time. That in the end, every day mattered, and we knew that the 31st of August was the deadline. A couple of days ago, the Americans made that decision. The G7 and the Prime Minister had sought extra time. We got some time within the timetable of when my forces, or not mine, the UK forces had to leave. But overall, I think, I'll look back on this and say they've only had another 7 days.
You've referenced the President. He gave a press conference in Washington yesterday, and he seemed to assert that none of his allies had ever suggested that he sought a delay to the timetable or a reworking of the timetable. Do you understand that to be the case?
I didn't. I'm afraid, Nick, I was
You would have been too busy. I appreciate
aftermath
that,
explosion. I didn't watch the US press conference. I think we've been clear that at a number of stages we would like more time. I know that they acquiesced to our request from the PM with time within the envelope of leaving on 31st of August, which was to allow our troops to leave a little bit later, and therefore that pushed everything a little bit to the right. So they did act on that, and I think we shouldn't forget or underplay actually that the reason we can do this is the Americans moved an overwhelming force into the airport to secure the airport, 6,000 Marines and Army in that airport. That's why we can fly out now, and without them we would not be in that position. And of course the tragedy of that was 13 of their Marines killed in action yesterday.
A couple of other stories, one on the front page of one of the newspapers today, The Times. Foreign Office staff, and I stress this for the benefit of my listeners, I remind everybody, of course, you're Secretary of State for Defence, but Foreign Office staff reportedly left documents with the contact details of Afghans working for them, as well as the CVs of locals applying for jobs, scattered along the ground of the British Embassy prior to it being seized by the Taliban. Is that correct, Secretary of State?
Like you, I read the story this morning. We'll find out, get to the bottom of it. The evidence looks pretty clear, and I think the excellent reporter Anthony Lloyd had done it. Yeah. It's not good enough.
I mean, I remind you again, you are the Defence Secretary, you're not the Foreign Secretary, but Secretary of State, how could this happen?
Well, I think we need to get to the bottom of that. I think the Prime Minister will be asking some questions. I think we need to understand quite rightly how that happened. How quickly did people leave? Was there a rush to the extent that these things were left? Now, what I don't know is the scale of what was actually destroyed and how much these were a tiny, tiny percentage. But nevertheless, look, it's not good enough.
And last headline is a different paper, the Daily Telegraph. Wallace, as in Ben, hits out at bullying fans of Kabul Animal Charity. A row over the evacuation of former Royal Marines Animal Charity from Afghanistan escalated yesterday. The Defence Secretary accused its supporters of bullying, falsehoods and threatening behaviour. Is that Marine going to get out with his entourage and crew and animals?
Well, I think the Marine will get out. He was called forward last Friday. He was called forward. I think it was on your show at the beginning of the week, urging him to, come to the airport and do it as requested, because we didn't want to put him at risk or anybody else at risk on it. Look, and also I made it clear in the middle of the night. I was 1 a.m. when I heard he'd got his people had got their leave to remain outside the rules, to let them know that they should now come forward. Look, I don't know. I do hope he makes his way back to the airport. He was at the airport yesterday with his people and animals. But look, my people were focused for the last 2 weeks on a humanitarian crisis. And I had to listen sometimes to calls of abuse to my advisors, to my officials, based mainly on falsehoods, that somebody somewhere had blocked a flight. No one blocked a flight. I didn't escalate yesterday. I thought, I've had enough of this. I will tweet out the actual facts. No one blocked a flight. There's no U-turns. You can't unblock a flight that wasn't blocked. It's not acceptable to be aggressive towards people who are absolutely working almost 24 hours a day to get these people through. And fundamentally, as we've seen on the media, there are desperate people, and I was not prepared to push those people out of the way for that. And when people's time was right, they were called forward, and that's the right thing to do. But look, I hope he comes back. He was advised to come back. His wife came back last Friday, so I hope he does as well.
Has he been a diversion? Has he got in the way?
I don't think I would say he personally has. I think the campaign of I think some people have been feeding him all sorts of false narratives that if you're alone in Kabul, you probably believe everything that somebody tells you back from the UK. But some of the aggressor, and you'll see it on Twitter, you'll see some of the people pretty horrendous. It is a fact that I didn't block a flight, but if you look at Twitter, people would say, "No, that's not true. You're a liar." It's like, no, I didn't block a flight, and I look forward to someone presenting the evidence that apparently did. I think it has taken up too much time of my senior commanders dealing with this issue when they should be focused on dealing with a humanitarian crisis.
Lastly, you mentioned your senior commanders. I have had a text from the mum of a soldier who's out there saying she hasn't slept during the days that this evacuation operation pitting has been going on. Obviously, I won't give any names or details. To the mums and the dads, the brothers and sisters, the wives and the husbands who've watched their men and women go out there as they prepare to come home safely, please God, what would you say?
I'd say that without the mums and the dads, keeping the home fires burning, those men and women probably wouldn't be able to be as good as they are, but also that they should be proud, really proud of them.
Grateful for your time as ever, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, appearing here on LBC, where the time is 8:03. Let's get the latest news.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom, the Ministry of Defence says it's closed its processing facility